Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. We're looking at my spreadsheet called Judaism Signs. And as you can see, there are 4 new items on my spreadsheet. So I'm pretty excited about this video. If you're new to my channel, I'm interested in any and all signs of the times. I look at anything that could be a sign to any religion, any people, any country, because I think the Lord speaks to all of his children in a way that they understand, both on the individual level, as well as the national level, as well as the religious level. And being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I'm especially interested in what he has to say to the Jews. They're still waiting for the coming of the Messiah. When he comes, they will learn that it's his second coming. He's going to come to them on the Mount of Olives, and they're going to have this really intense experience where they finally recognize him and accept him as the long-awaited Messiah. So ever since I started this channel, I've been trying to keep track of everything that's going on in Judaism across the world, but especially in Israel and especially in Jerusalem. There's different sources that I look at. I mean, I'll accept any source really, as long as it's credible. But there's a couple that I really lean on, and one of those is the Temple Institute. So I was scrolling on Facebook a few days ago, and I saw this post. This is December 23rd. What's new on the Temple Mount? 3 new positive breakthroughs occurred on the Temple Mount this Hanukkah. For the first time in modern history, after many attempts foiled by the police, a Hanukkah, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, a Hanukkah was kindled on the Temple Mount. Okay, I feel like that is pretty big. We're going to add that to the collection of things that we're seeing for the first time in 2,000 years, and not just small things, but pretty dramatic things. We'll go over that list in just a little bit. Okay, next, for the first time in modern history, Jews were allowed to ascend the Temple Mount and pray from Sidurim, or Jewish prayer books. Okay, and then third, for the first time in modern history, a Jew ascended the Temple Mount wearing his tefillin. Okay, if you don't know what that is, I guess the English word for this is phylacteries. Not a word that I typically use, but that's what it is. But tefillin, it's these black bands that they wrap around their arms, and then inside these black boxes, there's key scriptures from the Old Testament. And this is something that is talked about in the Old Testament. It's even talked about in the New Testament. But in the New Testament, at least, it's referred to as phylacteries. So this is pretty big because up until, man, I don't know, like just a year or two ago, they were pretty strict with what you brought with you to the Temple Mount if you're a Jew. You couldn't bring like flags, for example, Israeli flags. I don't think you could bring any religious items like a shofar, which is a ram's horn. Definitely not tefillin or phylacteries and stuff like that. There was a time when you couldn't even pray. Well, I think you could do it, but it couldn't be audible. You just, you do it in your head and you wouldn't be too obvious about it. But over time, and within a very short amount of time, relatively speaking, within a very short amount of time, there's starting to be more and more just blatant displays of religious items and worship even. So here's the candles that we just read about. It's not in a menorah or anything, but you have these candles and they're being lit. And I swear, before October of 2023, this probably would have caused a huge outrage. This probably would have sparked, all sorts of contention on and around the Temple Mount and throughout Israel. But I don't know. It's like It's almost like a slippery slope, so to speak. Um, Here they are reading and I guess praying out of the books that we were just reading about. So this is pretty incredible. We've talked many times on my channel about the construction of the temple, and I've collected all the quotes that I know of, all the scriptures. It's very ambiguous. I'm not opposed to the idea of the temple being built on the Temple Mount. I think that at least someday it will be. But we've also talked about the BYU Jerusalem Center and how there's probably going to be multiple temples in Jerusalem. Uh, we've talked about the Dome of the Rock right here, and the interesting symbolism in that building. And what if it was repurposed? We have temples in our time that did not start out as temples. One of the best examples is the Provo City Center Temple. Originally, it was a tabernacle, like a large building for meetings and stake conferences and stuff like that. It wasn't built to be a temple, but now it is. And that's happened with several other temples as well. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them that did not start out as temples. And anyway, I've done a whole video about that. But the reason why I'm talking about this whole thing with the temples is it's hard to picture how they would do it in the classic way if it is supposed to be built the way that they're planning right there on the Temple Mount. It's hard to picture that, but I don't know. Things are moving pretty quickly, it seems, as far as what's becoming more and more normal on the Temple Mount. Okay, so we got that. And then we have this post. So I'm recording this on the 29th, so this was posted on the 28th. Once again, record-breaking numbers of Jewish worshippers ascended the Temple Mount throughout the past month of Kislev and the holiday of Hanukkah. 5,808 Jews ascended the Temple Mount during the Hebrew month of Kislev, where they prayed, sang songs, and shared words of Torah on the holiest site on earth. During the 8-day holiday of Hanukkah, 6 of which Jews were allowed to ascend the mount, 3,053 Jews celebrated Hanukkah on the Temple Mount with prayer, song, and even succeeding in kindling a modest Hanukkah, 8-branch Hanukkah lamp, in parentheses. So, of course, our church doesn't advocate for anything that would break the law or anything that causes contention, but I'm not passing judgment on them. I'm just taking note of what's happening and how this could relate to prophecy, how some Jews may view this as a sign. Now, Judaism is really diverse. There's different, I don't know what they refer to them as, but they're basically sects or there's different divisions of Judaism that run, the entire political spectrum, and all sorts of beliefs. So there are some that would look at this and be like, that's no big deal. There shouldn't even be anybody, like there shouldn't be Jews, or there shouldn't be a state of Israel because Messiah is supposed to come and he's supposed to be the one that gathers in the exiles and he does that work. You guys are doing something that you're not supposed to do. Leave that to Messiah. There's other ones that have really gone astray from their religious roots, and they're more secular, more liberal, so they wouldn't really care about this. So there's only like a portion of Jews that would probably look at this and see it as significant and a sign of the times. It seems like primarily Orthodox Jews. Maybe not so much ultra-Orthodox like the Haredim or Hasidim, which is a part of the Haredim. So just so that's clear. But undoubtedly, this is affecting some people. And so we have these new items. There is some other news that I'm not going to put here on this spreadsheet, but let's just do a quick review of this column right here. Column G, first time in 2,000 years. It's a pretty big statement. And we've been having a lot of firsts within for the last 2,000 years. So We just talked about a Jewish guy wearing tefillin on the Temple Mount. That's a first in 2,000 years. Praying from Sidurim, Jewish prayer books. Lighting a Hanukkah on the Temple Mount. And then in August of this year, for the first time in 2,000 years, a shofar was blown or sounded from the Temple Mount. That's a ram's horn. Okay, and then June, let's see, for the first time in 2,000 years, a Kohen, which is a Jewish priest, performs the 2 loaves sacrifice at the site of the temple courtyard on the Temple Mount. Rabbi Israel Ariel, head of the Temple Yeshiva and president of the Temple Institute, supervised. Oh, I should have pulled that picture up, but yeah, the priest was all dressed in his temple robes, and it got interrupted by the police. But again, if that had happened something like 2, 3, 4 years ago, it probably would have caused a really, really big uproar, I think. And then June, I'm not sure of the exact date, but for the first time in 2,000 years, a commercial company in Israel will produce kosher flour for the use of making kosher bread for the temple. Because you know that in the temple itself, you had the incense, you had the menorah, but then there was also a table for showbread. So that this is that bread. This company would produce that bread in a kosher way. Okay, going back to October of 2024, first time in 2,000 years, a Kohen, or a priest, ascended the Temple Mount in full priestly garb. I did pull this article up on Israel 365 News. Here it is. So this shocked me when I saw this, because this is just really, like I said, very blatant, very in your face, very, they must have felt that it wasn't too daring, otherwise they wouldn't do it, but it feels very daring. So you had this, and then you have the last one that we were just reading where, I don't know if it was the same Kohen, but there was a Jewish priest that attempted to do the bread sacrifice up on the Temple Mount. He was also dressed like this. So it's pretty incredible to me. By the way, I also have a column here for activism. It feels like a lot of these acts are done by people that are activists. It's not necessarily like a mainstream thing to do, I don't believe, from everything that I've learned about Judaism. Okay, October 6th of 2024, for the first time in 2,000 years, the entire Rosh Hashanah service was observed on the Temple Mount, including the blowing of the shofar and the 13 full body prostrations. Actually, I think there's a picture of that here. This is from more recently, of course, but yeah, here you go. This also shocked me when I saw this the first time. This is pretty new. Like I said, I think this was the first time, the full body prostrations, October 6th of last year. So this is really, really new. Remember what I said. For a long time, Jews could go up to the Temple Mount and pray, but they had to do it silently. And then it kind of loosened up and they could do it like quietly, like whispering. And now we've progressed to this point. There's the Israeli police guy right there. I don't know, tying his shoe or something, as these guys are just doing a full on prayer, laying face down on the ground, facing toward where the temple would be. Okay. August 13th of last year, for the first time in 2,000 years, silver temple trumpets were sounded on the Temple Mount. So that's different from the shofar. The shofar is a ram's horn. These are actual silver trumpets that look like the trumpet that the angel Moroni blows on top of our temples. Okay, let's see. June 19th of last year, Israel Heritage Foundation unveiling event in New York City of Ark of the Covenant replica intended for use in the Third Temple. So I don't think that was done under the Temple Institute per se. From what I remember, it was another group, but they went through painstaking efforts to make it as accurate as possible. It went on this big tour to different places. Um, but that's potentially huge. Okay. And then we have October 15th of 2023. For the first time in 2000 years, a Jewish priest gives blessing to soldiers going to war. And that was actually a very touching story. And, you know, they did it. Well, I think there was one that started it, and then other Jewish priests started giving blessings too. But it was with the laying on of hands. It was just the imagery as you read that story. It sounded just like us in our church giving a blessing to somebody, the way that we do it. Okay, and then September of 2022, kosher red heifers for the first time in 2,000 years, meaning after 2,000 years of searching, not that there was like big efforts to find red heifers during that time, but since the destruction of the temple for the first time in 2,000 years, they actually found red heifers that could be used for the ceremony to produce ashes, to purify Jews who are all considered ritually impure, which is something that's needed for, it seems like most aspects of temple service, if the temple was to be reconstructed. There's a lot of things that they couldn't do without those ashes. So that's kind of a big deal. They haven't gotten the ashes yet. That's like an ongoing story. But anyway, September 16th, 2021, for the first time in 2,000 years, rabbis have an official meeting on the Temple Mount to discuss Jewish law. And that's on YouTube, but it's in Hebrew. And well, at this point, they're starting to do these like automatic, like YouTube is doing like automatic audio dubbing from one language to another. So maybe at this point you can hear it in English. Let's see. August 7th, 2021, for the first time in 2,000 years, Yair Levi becomes the first Levite to sing on the Temple Mount. So this was just a couple days before my channel started. It started on August 9th. And this was one of the first things that I covered, was this. This is also on YouTube. Just look up Yair Levi, and he has that video. Okay, and then two more. October 4th, 2016, Sanhedrin begin counting the Jubilee years for the first time in 2,000 years. Again, I don't know that all Jews would even care about that or see it as valid, but you have activist groups, and you probably have, some Orthodox Jews that would consider that valid. And then the earliest thing that I have, March 26, 2015, a Judean date palm tree grown from 2,000-year-old seed successfully reproduces. This variety of tree had been wiped out around 500 AD. So that means that the parent of that tree was around at the time of Christ and the Second Temple and other things. So it's kind of incredible when you think about it that way. So I don't know. We just added 3 new things in this one video. How many do we have total? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13 before this video, and now we have 16. 16 firsts in 2,000 years. And recently, if you've been watching me for the last couple of months, we've talked a couple of times about Elder Maxwell's quote where he said that toward the end, as we get closer to the second coming, there's going to be a compression of events. And we've seen it in our church, especially ever since the passing of President Nelson. There's just been all these things. And I don't know, it kind of feels like it here, doesn't it? Okay. Now, just a couple more things I want to put on your radar. I saw this. This is also from the Temple Institute. This was published on the 29th. 2,000-year-old Jewish ritual bath discovered under Western Wall Plaza in Jerusalem. They have some pictures here. So this is known as a mikveh. We would know it as a baptismal font. And it's kind of crazy that I don't know the extent of the excavation that's going on around the Temple now. Around the Temple Mount, I want to say that I know that they can't do any excavation underneath the Temple Mount proper, but this is under the Western Wall Plaza. So I guess that's why they're able to do it. I know there's been a lot of excavation in the city of David, which is just a little bit south of the Temple Mount. That's where we have what could be Melchizedek's temple, which has some really interesting symbols in the floor. But anyway, so a 2,000-year-old baptismal font, or a mikveh. I want to read a little bit from this article. This is Jewish News Syndicate. 2,000-year-old Jewish ritual bath discovered under Western Wall Plaza in Jerusalem. There's a kind of an interesting detail to this story. A Jewish ritual bath, or mikveh, dating back to the final days of the Second Temple period, which is funny because according to church leadership, we're in the final days right now before the second coming. I have all these final phase quotes. One of the most recent ones is from President Eyring, where he said that these are the final preparations for the second coming that we're doing right now. President Nelson said in 2022 that we're in the last half of the ninth inning, which is the very, very end of the game. So it's interesting. On the Jewish side, they're uncovering this reminder of the second temple. They're waiting for a third temple, but you have this mikveh dating back to the final days of the Second Temple period, has been unearthed near the Western Wall, the Israel Antiquities Authority announced on Monday. The bath, which still bears ash remains. That's it right there. Ash remains that testify to the destruction of the temple, was discovered recently beneath the Western Wall Plaza, the state-run archaeological body said. So not only is it from that time period, but there's actual ashes there. Now, I don't know if like ashes are new. This article would probably state that like, oh, for the first time, we're discovering ashes from the Second Temple. So maybe it's not new, but it's just, in our church, we believe that there is going to be another temple there. And like I said, there's probably going to be multiple temples in Jerusalem. Just like here in Independence, Missouri, there's going to be the 24 temple complex. I don't know why it would be any different for Jerusalem, because these are going to be the two world capitals during the millennium. So, okay. So you could see how this might be a sign for them. They're looking at this and they're like, oh, this is a sign that the third temple is going to be built soon. Messiah is going to come. Okay. So let's see. Hewn into the bedrock, the mikveh, which is rectangular in shape, measuring 3.05 meters in length, 1.35 meters in width, and 1.85 meters in height, was found sealed beneath the layer dated to the year 70 CE, or as I like to say, AD. So I think that this is pretty incredible. It also makes me think of the Pool of Siloam. That's also a relatively recent discovery, the actual location of the Pool of Siloam. They had one that was like further up in the city of David, but then they found like the actual site by mistake. I think there was a Greek Orthodox church that owned the very tip, the southern tip of the city of David. And there was some kind of, I don't know if it was like a plumbing leak, something with the sewer system, but they discovered it by accident. And now they're doing this big excavation. And the Pool of Siloam was pretty key. It was significant. Christ was there. My understanding is that I think it's the ashes of the red heifer have to be mixed in with water from the pool of Siloam. Now, they may be able to do it right now, even though it's not operational, because you do have water from the Gihon spring. I think it's the Gihon spring that provides water to the pool of Siloam. So, but either way, like all these things are happening so close together, just within like the last 5 years. Okay. And then lastly, there's this post. This is from a post on Christmas Eve. The temple menorah has been refurbished and is spectacular. So this was produced by the Temple Institute. They've recreated all the vessels, all the instruments, all the clothing for the third temple, including this menorah. This is not new, but it's been refurbished. The temple menorah, constructed by the Temple Institute and ready and waiting to be kindled in the Holy Temple, was recently removed from its glass housing in the central plaza of Jerusalem's Old City Jewish Quarter, refurbished and returned to its pristine glory. It is now more beautiful than ever and once again being enjoyed by visitors from all over the world. Well, that's great. I mean, this is something that I've wanted to see. If I was to go to Jerusalem right now, this would be one of my like must-see things. So if I had gone there and it wasn't there, I'd be pretty disappointed. I love that they have this on public display. It's massive. I mean, look how big it is. And I would love to see this in operation in a Jewish temple, honestly. So, I don't know, just a lot of things going on. I keep adding to this list. As always, I wonder what the next thing is going to be. But I definitely wasn't expecting to add 3 things at a time to this. And they were no small things. The lighting Hanukkah candles on the Temple Mount, you know, that guy wearing his tefillin and then praying from the cedar, those are no small things. These are obvious, blatant, visual. I can't believe it. I've seen plenty of videos. I do this type of thing. I've seen plenty of videos of Jews going on a tour on the Temple Mount. They have like a path that they're supposed to follow. And I've seen, you know, the Muslims up there, especially the Waqf people, the people that the Jordanian Waqf that administers the Temple Mount. I've seen them like watching these groups and like really eyeballing them and sometimes complaining about certain things. So I don't know. I guess they weren't there to stop this. And so like how much further can this go? I mean, I guess next time they could have an actual menorah for next Hanukkah. I guess that would take it to the next level. What other things? Well, I guess like if they were to perform other rituals, it's not like they can do all of them, but certain things like the offering of the 2 bread loaves. I don't know what else there is. I know there have been activist groups that have tried to get people to do sacrifices on the Temple Mount, which is obviously illegal. No one's been successful at doing that, but if that took place, I don't know that would be seen as a big thing for Jews. Maybe it would, but that would definitely cause a stir, I think. I don't know. We'll just have to see. But every day that goes by just gets crazier and crazier. All right. Well, that's going to be for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.